which is a small department within the library that consists about 15 to 20 people working on research and development in the areas of digitization, but also public libraries, because we are also responsible for the public libraries. And together we have a small team working on, well, mostly digital aspects of our library. Okay, so the KB where I work was founded in 1798, and currently we hold about 7 million items, which is 115 kilometers of books, newspapers, journals, and manuscripts. And our collection grows each year, with last year almost 50,000 books and 42,000 periodicals. Yes. A library such as ours has the task to collect and preserve the written heritage of the Netherlands. And we ensure that our storage rooms, which take up to 75% of our building, are up to the highest preservation standards, and that our material is in the best possible place for storage. The air is not too humid, the temperature is just right, and the precious or fragile material is kept in acid-free boxes. We have curators that know what is in each collection and research these works and are responsible for acquiring more that fits the profile of their collection. I think this all sounds very familiar for you. And everything is, of course, catalogued to the smallest detail to make sure the audience has the best access to the material. We know what we have, where it is, and how we can keep it safe for the future. This is our core business, this is what we do, and what we're good at. But next to our physical collection, we also pride ourselves in a rich digital collection. Over the past 15 years or so, we have digitized 320,000 books, 11 million newspaper pages, 1.5 million journal pages, 1.5 million radio bulletins, almost 500,000 parliamentary papers, almost 20,000 images, and 5 thesauri with all information about our collection, its authors and subjects. Next to this, we host the Digital Library of Dutch Literature, which contains 13,000 titles in manually produced full text, 14,000 scanned titles, and 2,500 ebooks. And together this results in a very rich digital collection with documents ranging from the Middle Ages until the present time. And much of this data is available for reuse without any restrictions. And for material that is in copyright, we have negotiated the rights for scientific use. But this is new to us. On the left here you see our library as it once was. We have been collecting and keeping physical materials since 1798, but have only been keeping a digital collection for 15 years now. So how do we, as a library, ensure that that digitized content is just as accessible to our users as our physical content? And what actually happens with this digital content? How are people using it? And what role do we as a library play within this community? These are questions that we are faced with while making our data available for reuse. And during my talk, I will give you some insights into how the KB deals with reuse, but also what we deem important for enabling reuse for the future. So, what types of reuse do we encounter? On the one hand, there is the scholarly community that uses our data to answer research questions such as, how is the concept Europe depicted in newspapers? Which is being asked by a current KB fellow, Dr. Joris van Eijnatter. Each year, we invite a renowned researcher to join the library for a period of 6 months for a research sabbatical. He or she uses our digital collection to answer a research question using digital methods. The tools produced for this research are made available for other scholars and the fellows are supported by our programmers. Okay. The research Dr. van Eijnante does belongs to the digital humanities, and Dr. Julia Noordegraaf explains in these videos what new opportunities she sees within the digital humanities with our data.
Big data is voor erfgoedonderzoek een heel nieuw en spannend terrein. Mijn onderzoek is gericht op cultureel erfgoed. In de afgelopen jaren zijn als gevolg van digitalisering grote datasets ontstaan. De datasets waar geesteswetenschappers traditioneel mee werken zijn fuzzy, complex. Een 15e eeuws handschrift laat zich niet zo makkelijk lezen door OCR-software. Ik ben in het bijzonder geïnteresseerd in de nieuwe methodologische problemen die dit oproept. Je moet ineens veel grootschaliger kwantitatief te werk gaan met tekstmining en statistische analyse van data. Wij, geesteswetenschappers, kunnen dan veel complexere vragen beantwoorden die over de bestaande disciplinaire grenzen heen gaan. Hierbij zie ik veel kansen voor de topsector creatieve industrie, waarin onderzoekers, publieke en private partijen samenwerken om dergelijk onderzoek mogelijk te maken. De uitkomsten worden dan niet alleen wetenschappelijk, maar ook maatschappelijk en economisch benut. De grote vraag blijft, wat gaan we vinden in al die datasets?
But not only humanities scholars find our content interesting, computer scientists also see the great potential of our collection. The Center for Math and Informatics are, for example, working with the search logs that are generated by the users of our online platform Delver. Here, people can access the bulk of our collection by keyword searching, and these keywords and the subsequent digital movement on the website give a very good insight into the activities of users of search systems. From what we've gathered, no such data collection is available for researchers in this community that researches search systems, and our anonymized logs have shown to be a beautiful source for this research group. They've told us that the data that they get that they use in many conferences and in many research projects is usually data that is fake, that has been produced just to have something to research. So having real life information about how people use a website, which keywords they use, is very valuable for them. On the other hand, there is commercial reuse. If our content is out of copyright or can be made available under a CC0 license, which means that we waive the copyright, anyone can use the data to build a service or create a product. This has happened, for example, with the parliamentary papers that we have digitized. All reports from our government from 1814 until 1995 have been digitized and collected on one website. And everything has been OCR'd and can be searched with the keyword search. But much more legal information is of course available on the internet. And the company Legal Intelligence has taken all this information and has combined it into a legal search engine, which is available through a subscription. And then finally, we have non-commercial reuse, of which Wikipedia is a fantastic example. We have currently provided 3,915 images to Wikipedia for use with their articles. All these images are either public domain or CC0 and can thus also be incorporated in other websites or services. And many of the images have been added to Wikipedia during the stay of our Wikipedian in residence, who spent 9 months enriching Wikipedia with content from our collection. He was someone who is very active in the Wikipedia community, which is very important for this. And together with the Wikipedia community, we have also hosted editathons, where people added articles and took our images and our collection and added it onto existing content on Wikipedia. And our Wikipedian also uses our collection in hackathons, one of which is happening this Friday. Teams of scholars, programmers, and librarians are battling each other to hack together the best application that uses KB data. And after 24 hours of working on this, a jury decides the winner, and the winners get offered IT support to develop their concept further. And how do we then fit into these activities? Because yes, we have the collection which these people use, but we see ourselves as KB not only as a data supplier. We want to offer the whole package and offer support, facilitate research, something that is natural to a library. The KB finds this particularly important, although the user group is relatively small in the Netherlands. Here you can see we have indicated the top part of the pyramid to be about 100 plus scientists who actively use the bulk of our digitized collection. The people who use our search platform, Delver, are the 1 million people that are in the middle section of the pyramid. So this image comes from our strategy for 2015-2018, where we have indicated digital humanities as one of the focus areas. And to achieve this, so that is where the digital humanities activities are. And to achieve this, the KB has a digital humanities team, which consists of a digital collections curator, 2 digital scholarship advisors, and 2 research programmers. And together we work on projects related to all types of research, reuse, but also do research on how we can promote use of our digital collection and how we can encourage others within our communities of libraries to engage in reuse and engage with the academic community in their countries. As I said, working with this digital content is relatively new to us. A number of years ago, people who found out about our digitized collection and wanted to use it for any type of work contacted us to get a copy of the data. They then came to us with a hard drive onto which we copied the data, and that was that. We mostly never heard what happened, and we didn't have the network in place to follow up on any work they did. We provided access to the digitized collection via several websites, which all had different teams working on them and different contact people to provide information about it. Researchers would have to talk to at least 4 people to get our digitized newspapers, parliamentary papers, books, and the attached catalog. And each of these people would then have to find out if they could provide the data that was requested and how they would have to give access. I think you know where I'm going with this. This is not sustainable. This costs too much time and asks the same question about different material types. So how can reuse be part of your future? What is important for an institution to facilitate reuse, to keep it sustainable, and to promote use of your digital collection? As often in professional relationships, your network is key. The KB has indicated this in our strategic plan, the power of our network. Networks are powerful, and I believe your network on several levels can play a crucial role in the reuse of your digital collection and the sustainability of it. And in this image you can see, I think is only part of our network actually. These are people that we work with, that use our data, that have digitized our collection and make it available, but also people who we talk to when we want to discuss copyright, reuse, and making more content available. So for the physical part of our collection, it is important that we have everything in order in our own building, as I described earlier, that what we collect is what needs to be collected for our community, and that we keep it safe for the future. However, when looking at our digital content, We are not alone anymore. The digital world provides so many opportunities of working together, and not only for us, but our users see this as well. It has become so easy to combine digital material into a set that meets exactly your needs. We should thus not only make decisions for our digital collection based on what we feel is right, but see yourself as part of a bigger whole. So, a great example of this is the IIIF network, or the International Image Interoperability Framework, which makes it possible that manuscript pages that have been scattered all over the world can now be seen in correlations with their siblings who are in different libraries. This network has not been active for long. I think it's only about 3 years, but they have already reached out to more than 60 institutions. And 60 institutions have made their collections available within this framework and made it combinable with all the others in the network. But which steps do you follow to reach a state where your content is not only digital, but also ideally set up to enable reuse on a larger scale? So, if your organization is still working on digitization or wants to improve the digital content you already have, it can be very valuable to join a consortium such as the Impact Center of Competence. Here you can be part of a community looking at digitization of historical material from a broader perspective. Not only libraries share their experiences here, but you can also connect with service providers, technical experts, and find information about all areas of digitization. Ask questions, learn what is possible, and what is the best fit for your material. Here you can also find resources to evaluate your OCR material, for example. They have developed methods of testing your content and the quality of your content. So, once you have a digital collection, it is very important to be aware of your users, who your users are, and what exactly they need and want. You can do this by sending out surveys, having an inbox for general questions, or webcare via Twitter or other social media. But I think this only provides you with the information that you find relevant at that time, and that a lot of questions that you do not ask don't get answered, although they can be crucial for your community. So in this slide, you see an example of one of our newspapers from 1922. And it's not extremely visible, but the OCR of our newspaper is not of the highest quality, unfortunately. This has several reasons that have to do with the quality of the source material mostly. But we're very proud of what we have. But when we talk to our users, the first thing they tell us is, yes, but your OCR is not good enough. We cannot work with what you have given us. And during a conference that we attended, where work was being presented, that used our digital collection, that used these newspapers, the researchers told us that they actually shifted their research from the 1930s to the 1920s, because the OCR was actually better for the 1920s, which is something that we would not expect, and which is something that we wouldn't have known if we wouldn't have talked to them, because we know what's in the collection, but it's very hard to know what the quality of your collection is. And if we share this with our users, we find out. And because we share this, we can also, because we know this, we can share it with others. And being involved in your user community gives you insights into the usage of your data, but it also gives you information about the data itself. And if others know this, they might also change their research focus until we're in a better place to start correcting our OCR, which we hope to do very soon. So an even better way of finding out what users do, need, and want is actually working with them. If you run a project together, you learn a great deal about the pitfalls of your collection, your communication, but also the reputation of your organization. So we asked ourselves, how do people use our data? What types of problems do they run into? And how can we shape our services in such a way that is most helpful for the researchers, but also, how do people view us as an institution? Are we the research partner that we think ourselves to be? And if not, how can we change this? The KB has worked together with researchers in small projects over the years, but since 2014, we have a researcher in residence program. This program is set up specifically to answer questions that we had in regards to the reuse of our collection in scholarly communities. And we invite young scholars or early career scholars, people who are actually doing their PhD or have finished their PhD in the last 5 years. And we actually hire them for 6 months for half an FTE to come work with us. We make our programmer available to them for a day and a half every week. And they propose a project to us. So this year we have received 9 projects. Last year we received 11 projects, of which we grant 2 each year. So 1 in the first half of the year and 1 in the second half. And then together we try to figure out, we try to answer the research question that we have. And all the methods that we use or that come out of this research project are again made available for the wider community. So that's one of the requests that we make, that whatever they do is also valuable for others. So after 3 years and 7 projects, we have learned invaluable lessons that we wouldn't have if we wouldn't have engaged with our user community. We know that people are interested in more information than we could have thought, such as the search logs I mentioned earlier. We know that researchers want to know exactly what is available in a specific data collection, and that it is very important that we are transparent about how this collection is formed. We even learned, for example, that the facet image used on our online portal does not show all images in the newspaper collection, but only those that are published as a separate article. And this sounds very basic, but if we as a digital humanities team don't know about this, how can the user? And when a user finds something like this, it hurts our reputation as a reliable digitizer, because something that was decided in the digitization project for practical reasons turns out to be a barrier for the correct use of our collection. This shows that to enable reuse in a scholarly way, transparency is very important. And this is something that we learned while doing a project where we wanted to extract all images from the digitized newspapers. Because again, this proved to be a very valuable source for the computer vision scientists. For them, it's very difficult to come by a collection where you have on the one hand an image, and on the other hand, text that's related to the image but does not explain what is on the image. So in the newspapers, of course, often you have a photograph or an illustration with a byline that is attached to it. And while trying to extract all these images from our newspaper collection, we soon learned that it wasn't everything that we digitized because we were missing images. And now we know that the facet image is not related to complete articles, but just to separate photos. So, what I wanted to say, don't be the black box where physical items go in and digital items come out, without any information about what happens in between. Documentation is key. And if you have documented your work, decisions, and actions properly, it not only provides an invaluable resource for the academic community, your organization is also not at risk of losing key people with crucial information. People leaving your organization who have run the digitization process, it's very, very difficult to transfer the information, the knowledge that they have to someone else. But if they write it down while doing it, it becomes much easier. And it's also not such a big task of transmitting all the information afterwards. But being part of a network of your users is very important to be able to understand the usage of your data. But it can also be very rewarding to work together with colleagues, other libraries or cultural institutions that are in a similar situation. You don't have to do everything yourself, and working together with partners can lessen your burden when thinking about strategic issues that are relevant for the whole community, and provide insights into the working of other organizations, but also countries. So, for example, the KB is quite a forerunner in the area of digital humanities in Europe. We have been working on digital humanities services for more than 5 years now under that name, but we have been digitizing since 1995. And we have quite a number of services available. However, we have not done this alone, but found inspiration and discussion partners with other libraries, such as the British Library, for example. And we wanted to formalize this arrangement and also provide others with the same opportunities we had. And we've therefore set up a working group within the Organization for European Research Libraries, LIBER. Here we can share experiences, solve issues, provide services, engage with our community, and learn how others do this. But we also want to encourage others to take up the gauntlet and start sharing. It is a platform where we can learn, inform, share, promote, and lobby. And as part of this international network, we also get access to an even larger audience of researchers by working together with European infrastructures such as Daria and Clarin. And these communities represent a vast amount of European researchers, all with a digital interest and a potential user of your collection. And so much is happening in Europe. By joining the European community, you not only open up your collection to new users, you also open up your library to interesting projects with possibly even European funding. And if you don't know where to start, Europeana is a great first step. This is the European Aggregator for Digital Cultural Heritage. And here you can showcase your collection and reach your big audience by opening up your data via the services. I understood that you have a local aggregator as well, which takes your content to Europeana, which I think is, if you can do it, if you can provide your data via Europeana, you really should, because Europeana has a great PR team, and they provide so many activities around the collections they make available to the European community. And joining them means your collection will become part of these activities and gives you a very valuable way into the European network of cultural heritage institutions that can all be a potential partner to work together with and learn from. You also become part of a strong lobby with regards to reuse, as can be seen here. This is an image that they've recently published after a workshop that they held within our library, in which they indicate what is important for the research community, for the cultural heritage community for the next years. So what they will be lobbying about is trying to get funding for digitization, copyright reform. We want to provide more, but we're not allowed to. And thirdly, they have recommendations for research. They want to open up the collections for the digital humanists. And if, as a library, you can join them in this lobby, it's more valuable to join the lobby here than to do it yourself, I think. And not only think of other libraries, because in Europeana, you can find museums, galleries, archives, but also research projects, such as Europeana newspapers that was mentioned earlier. This project collected newspaper pages, digitized newspaper pages from all over Europe, and they are now available within Europeana. So GLAMs, or galleries, libraries, archives, and musea, often have similar questions when talking about reuse. And in the Netherlands, we are trying to answer these questions together. Your network is key, deciding when deciding what and how to digitize, how to make this digital collection available, and to join the discussion on the restrictions regarding datasets. But also, when looking at the future and providing a sustainable digital collection that will enable reuse for the years to come. Being part of a network allows you to look for answers together and to ensure that the solutions you implement match those of your colleagues. This does not only give you a network where you can work together, but also a network where your digital collections can work together. And this is an image of the Dutch cultural heritage sector, and they've made a real nice, nice little film about it. So let me see if it.
More and more often, the cultural heritage held in museums, libraries, archives, and other collections is also being made available in digital form. Existing collections are being digitized, and new material is being produced in digital form. Schools, cultural institutions, researchers, and individuals can use these resources. The images, documents, and collection descriptions can be found within the walls of the institutions holding them, but they're also increasingly being made accessible online. The heritage currently on offer is subject to a variety of limitations. For example, digital collections are often isolated databases that are useful only to those who know precisely what they're looking for. For others, however, the information is often difficult to find and can only be used to a limited extent. That can be changed by linking information from and about collections held by such institutions as museums, archives, and libraries. That would make information on cultural history easier to find, and we could also better use those digital resources to make connections, create new stories, and perform innovative research. There are thousands of institutions in the Netherlands that manage and use those heritage collections. They are all working to forge connections with users, other institutions, and technological facilities. If they intensify their cooperation and scale up their technology, they will be able to better link their collections and make more efficient use of both knowledge and funds. 5 sectoral hubs are already working together. Thematic and regional partnerships are being formed elsewhere. Together, they constitute a technological and organizational network, the Digital Heritage Network. There are 3 layers at which facilities must be built into the network, so that they can always be reconnected, expanded, and reused. In the data layer, proper conditions must be created for the sustainable maintenance of digital collections. In the connection layer, the information from and about those collections will be linked together using new and existing technologies. In the service layer, more visible and demand-based facilities must be developed for companies, institutions, and end users. Effective partnerships depend on shared perspectives. The National Digital Heritage Strategy is a foundation on which such shared perspectives can be built. We're making better use of the existing roads, and we're working together to develop new ones. We're already on the way to establishing a visible, usable, and sustainable digital collection in the Netherlands. Archives and other collections is all.
Okay, so as you've seen in the Netherlands, this network is called National Digital Heritage, or NDE. And the 5 hubs you saw were the National Library, the National Institute for Sound and Vision, the Cultural Heritage Agency, which represents all the museums, the Royal Dutch Academy of Sciences, and the National Archives. And as a 6th hub, 12 ICT companies have joined forces to make up the heritage software suppliers and provide a creative industry viewpoint in a national strategy. And together we work on the 3 levels, making cultural heritage visible, usable, and sustainable. And within these layers, we can think about the future of our respective collections, but also how they should interact together. And together we provide the bulk of the Dutch digital collection, and much reuse of these sets combines parts of the various institutions, something which will only grow in the future. The digital revolution in the humanities now makes it possible to ask much larger questions to much larger data sets, and making sure your collection can be part of the answer to such questions not only increases the use of your data, but also enriches your collection with relevant information from other institutions. So for example, one of the projects that was run within our library that combines information from others was called Polymedia. And in Polymedia, the idea was that the researchers wanted to know which discussions in the parliament, how they were represented in the media. So together with the content from the Sound and Vision Institute, they made a search system where you can search through the parliamentary papers and immediately see results of the radio news, the TV news, but also the newspapers that we digitized. So you get the whole viewpoint of how, not only how the debate happened in the parliament, but also how the Dutch public saw it in the media. So what are some of the things that are happening within the NDE setup? Oh. Yes. Yes. As I mentioned before, knowing what your user needs is very important, because this allows you to set up your structure and services in such a way that this meets their demands, but also ensures you have the ideal setup for reuse. So for this, Layer Visible has instigated discussion groups per sector to talk about the research that people are doing and where they run into any issues. Unfortunately, because the network is quite big, it's not possible to have research projects from within the network. So here they need to go into discussion with our users. And another, another example of what the Visible crew is doing is one of the projects that came out of a recent call for proposals, where some money was made available for the innovative reuse of cultural heritage material. And this project is now working on a Chrome add-on that shows you a random image of the Europeana collection of Dutch institutions when you open a new browser tab. So instead of opening up a tab and seeing an empty space, you see a beautiful work of art or a really interesting book. You can then click on the image to see more information about it and follow it to the website of the Cultural Heritage Institution it is hosted at. And next to showcasing the data, making sure the institutions are up to speed with the latest developments is also very important. The Open Cultural Data Organization is therefore working on building competence within the cultural heritage community by organizing open culture data labs, where cultural heritage professionals can learn more about policy making with regards to cultural data, but also the valorization of the subsequent policy. So how do you make policy when talking about data, but also how can you then show that the policy you made is actually working? So the second layer is the usable layer. And these people are concerned with how the digital sets can be combined into working together. They are working on several white papers about, for example, linked data, but are also looking at existing thesauri and how they can provide extra information for relevant collections. Next to this, they are responsible for the digital collection project, where Dutch digital heritage is made available on a searchable platform by aggregating existing content. And finally, the last layer is one of the most important ones, namely the sustainable layer. Here, questions are asked about how to keep the digital collection available for our users on the long term. Here you can think about things such as which standards should we use? How can we implement persistent identifiers in our digital collection? But also, who collects what? We have, for example, in the Netherlands, the KB has a web archive, so we're archiving Dutch websites. But that also happens in other institutions. So here we discuss who is collecting which websites for the future. And they are working on a sustainability policy that provides building blocks for institutions who want to introduce sustainability in their organization. Make it easy to start thinking about sustainability and take it step by step instead of trying to do everything at once. Okay, so within these 3 layers, the whole process of digitizing and giving access to digital material is addressed. And with each step, it is important to keep the future in mind when making a decisions. Libraries and other cultural institutions are seen as the reliable party for the safekeeping of books, paintings, archives, and other heritage works. And we pride ourselves in having the best possible environment for these physical works. Let's take our role as a digitizer of this collection just as seriously and be as reliable for the safekeeping of our digital collection as we are of our physical. Keep in mind that your digital collection is part of a bigger whole. See yourself as part of a bigger whole and open up not only your data, but also your organizations to opportunities of reuse, research projects, funding, and a whole new user community that you never even thought of. So what is most important when thinking about reuse? As I said, you and your collection are part of a bigger whole. Make decisions with this concept in mind and talk to others to make them together. Be transparent about your digitization process. Document what you do and why. When you know what you did exactly and why, you can communicate this to your users who will be eternally grateful. They can build on your expertise, so provide that expertise. Use standards to facilitate the combination of existing collections. This not only facilitates the linking of your collections to others, but you can also use the knowledge about that standard to your benefit. Do not reinvent the wheel, but become part of a widespread community of your peers. Be persistent in what you do and offer persistent access to your data. Reliability is connected to persistency. If users know what they can expect from you, they can build on you. And with persistent identifiers, this can continue into the future. Work together with your users to ensure a good fit of your services, but to also learn from them. You are not alone, and digitization is not only done for preservation. Connect with your users, listen to them, and form a partnership that benefits you both. And join networks to learn and share about your work and to promote the use of your collection. As the KB has indicated, use the power of your network. Your network is bigger than you think. So NDE has recapped it into these tips for success. Cooperate, increase the online visibility of your collection, actively promote reuse, pay structural attention to what you're doing, and make sure that your archiving is sustainable. Thank you for your attention.
Bé, doncs passem al torn de preguntes. Alguna pregunta? No? Doncs llenço jo. Did you find or detect any use of your data or digital resources that you didn't expect?
I have to be honest. We don't know exactly what is happening with our data.
Okay.
Which we don't see a problem with that actually, because a lot of what we have digitized has been digitized with public funding, so the public should be able to use it. And the people that we talk to are mostly researchers, but the legal search system that I mentioned was something that we didn't anticipate. We didn't think of this, and also they didn't ask permission. They never contacted us to ask if it was okay to take our content. But we provided this with the CC0 license, so it's fine. They can use it to whatever extent. Yeah.
Okay. ¿Una pregunta? Espera, que porta nada.
Good morning. I'm Ernest Abadal I am the Dean of the Faculty of Library and Information Science here of the University of Barcelona. Just a short question. You told us about the Digital Heritage Network with libraries, archives, museums, and my question is, who promotes this network? The government, or it's self-managed? Who is the promoter, the promotion of this network?
The government is part of the network. The Ministry of Culture and Science, I think they actually fund the network, but the partners, so the 5 hubs I mentioned, are the people actually doing it, so the people who are working it. And we have an institute in the Netherlands that's responsible for the digital heritage, and they run the whole project. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Eugènia Serra from the Library of Catalonia, the National Library of Catalonia. Okay, my question is, from the moment that you only work with paper and so on, traditional materials, until now with the digital one, what is the percentage of increasing in resources, budget, and people that you have need to do all of this new scenario with digital?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think we shifted that much. I think over the years we have about 300 people working in the library, and I think mainly the activities shifted from the physical to the digital. So it's our budget. We're making different choices now. I think that's mainly the idea.
Priorities.
Yes.
¿Alguna pregunta més? No? Well, do you have any kind of success indicator about all these lines of work? How can you measure if one line is successful or not? Or
we evaluate the programs that we run, which we do on the one hand by asking the people who we work with, but also by looking at the outreach that we have. So we see ourselves as part of the community, and as long as we see this community is still growing, so that our network is still growing, we find that programs are successful. Yes.